Good afternoon, all. We are going to start today's session 2. The topic is diffusional studies, and the speaker is Dr. Yogesh Nimdev, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemical Engineering, IIT Jammu. I request Dr. S.L. Bhagat sir to introduce the speaker.
Good noon to one and all. I once again welcome all the participants to join the session. Today we have Yogesh Nimdev sir, who has a specialization in optical techniques for engineering and biomedical application. He has published many papers, out of which he has got citations of 27 in numbers, and he has worked on many fields such as thermodiffusion studies in solutions and colloidal suspensions using dual wavelength laser techniques, aerodynamics, and design and optimization and of separation techniques. I welcome once again Yogesh Nimdev sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So, hello everybody. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes. First of all, let me share the screen so that. So, is it visible to you? Yeah, let me share just a minute.
Yes, sir, it is visible now.
Just a minute. So you can see the PPT.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So during a talk, if I lose connection, in case you are not getting voice, please let us know. Let me know, because also I'm on mobile, so I can understand that one. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. So today we are going to talk about the diffusion studies in colloidal suspensions using advanced optical and computational tools. And I'm Dr. Yogesh, as already described by Dr. Sanjay Bhagat regarding me. And I belong to IIT Jammu, here in a chemical engineering department, IIT Jammu. This is the photo of our campus, newly developed campus. It's a new institute right now coming up at just near the city of Jammu. It's a very nice place. You can visit anytime. And mountains we can see mountains, white mountains from the institute itself. So it's a very good atmosphere over here, and you can visit anytime to our institute. So let us start with the today's topic, that is diffusion studies in colloidal suspensions using advanced optical and computational tools. So in this particular lecture, we are going to mainly focus on some of the topics, like introduction to evolving fields of diffusional studies. Then what is the necessity of the advanced optical and computational tools in a research, and then introduction to various optical tools that are used for diffusional studies, and data extraction from the recorded images. That means during the experiment we are recording the images. It depends upon the phenomena that we are going to study, diffusional phenomena that we are observing with the help of these optical techniques, and then processing of this particular data. And you will get since it's a whole field imaging techniques, so you will get an entire data set, and it depends upon, that means on the basis of pixel of your camera, you will get the data set over there. And that's why processing of this data, and then also which data exactly is very sensitive or which is very useful for your calculation. That for that purpose, we have developed a sensitivity analysis approach for sensitivity analysis, that also we will discuss in this particular talk. And then you can use this sensitivity analysis approach to any of your experiments wherever you are getting a data and you want to generate some properties. You want to find out some properties on the basis of that data. So how to do that we will discuss in this particular talk. Then the measurement of these diffusional properties out of the sensitive data that we have collected, and then on the basis of the measured diffusional properties, how we can interpret the diffusion dynamics that is happening inside the fluids, that we will discuss in this particular talk. And then at the last, we'll also see what are the different applications of the developed approach of studying the diffusional dynamics using optical techniques. So all these things we'll try to describe one by one in this talk. So if you have any query, we can address it at the last of at the end of this talk. So in the introduction, as we all know that there are different kinds of fluids, and the fluids are mainly divided on the basis of the particles or the material that we are dissolving, either dissolving or we are just dispersing that particular material in the base fluid, right? So on the basis of a particle size, we can distribute this particular fluids. Let's say it's if it is below 10⁻⁹ meter, then we can say it's a solution, right? So if it is in between 10⁻⁹ to 10⁻⁷, it's a we can say it is a dispersion kind of suspension. That means dispersion that we have created, and then on top of that is a suspension. So in case of dispersion, we usually deal with the nanofluids also, or some of the colloidal suspensions which are having particle size less than 10⁻⁷. But in case of a biological suspensions, you will find that some you are using some protein components over there, or you are making a nano composite of by using protein components, or the polymeric suspensions that can also come in this category. Now, as compared to solution, these colloidal dispersions or suspensions having a particles, and that particles may be or may not be having a heterogeneous charge distribution. Okay, it might be homogeneously charged. There is a homogeneous charge distribution, that is negatively charged particles all over the that means negative charges are distributed all over the particle, or it may be combination of negative and positive charges, right? So, but on the basis of that, the repulsive and attractive forces plays a role in this particular solutions, and because of that, you will find that if it is a viscoelastic suspension, then you will find that with time it is developing some microstructures inside it. Okay, and that particular development we call it as a in the rheology term we call it as a aging, right? So all this development of a microstructure happening within the suspensions increases its complexity, and that's why it's become very hard to carry out the diffusional studies in such type of complex fluids. Okay, so in this particular field, right now, that means all these suspensions, when it has too much importance in various sectors like paste, foams, creams, industries, food sector, you will find that such type of jams, jelly, sole forming suspensions are having various applications. But if you are on the other side, when this material came in a contact with the atmosphere, which is having a different temperature as compared to its own temperature, then it will create a gradient in it. So we can, in our terms, we call it as a deformation field. That is deformation field that we, in case of during experiment, we intentionally apply to the suspension, but naturally there are several chances that the material can face such type of gradients, right? If you are taking the material, let's say you have taken a bottle filled with a colloidal suspension, and you just put it in a fridge, and then for experimental purpose you are taking it out and putting in the atmospheric condition, then of course it is facing a lot of gradients, and that's because of that gradient there is a chances of development of clusters and the microstructures. So diffusional study in that aspect is very important for all the suspensions and solutions. Okay, but up till now, if you have observed, then the diffusion, let's say if you want to measure a mass diffusion coefficient of or diffusivity of that particular material, okay, liquid. So usually what we do is we use diaphragm cell for that particular purpose. So we or the advanced diaphragm cells where the membranes can be used, and we allow the particles, that means solutions, concentrated solution inside one beaker, and outside the periphery we put another beaker, and in that we put a base fluid. So we just try to study, then we titrate it, the outer part, and we take a sample from that, and we just titrate it with the NaOH and with the indicator, and we get a pink color, and then we carry out the concentration measurement, right? So, but is it possible to measure the mass diffusivity or mass diffusional properties of a suspension with such type of system? Because membranes are there, and suspensions are having some particles which is having a dimension greater than 10⁻⁷, right? Or the nanofluids also, they are having a chances to plug into the membrane, and how we can clean the membrane. All these are the problems that you can face during study of such type of complex materials, right? And also on top of that, if you want to, let's say you want to study the heat diffusion properties in these suspensions, in that case you will have to insert some thermocouples inside the fluid. But since these structures are having, that means since these fluids are having a property of a development of a microstructure as a function of time, it will affect that particular phenomena which is happening inside the test cavity if you insert a probe to inspect that phenomena of diffusion happening inside the cavity. So there should be something which will work from outside and can give you all the details which are happening inside the cavity. And that's why optical techniques are very important. And on top of that, we have one additional factor that is with us is we have high-speed computers and data analysis tools that can be used nowadays to carry out such type of measurement very easily. So in this talk, we'll talk about the optical techniques. I will introduce you to some of the optical techniques which are used for whole field imaging of the diffusional phenomena, and how to carry out the analysis of that particular interprograms or the images that we have recorded during these experiments. That also we will see in this particular talk. Okay, so first of all, when you are working, that means you are having intention to work on optical techniques, you first have to think about the which light source that you are going to work with. Okay, so if you have, that means optical techniques which is working on the basis of phase shift, that means there are different types of optical techniques, and the requirement of optical techniques is depend upon which type of mechanism that optical techniques work on. Okay, so in case of interferometer, it works on the phase shift. That means there are two beams are coming, and then the wavelengths are there, and one wavelength is slightly delayed to reach at particular point, and another wavelength, another light with the same wavelength is reaching to that point as somewhat early as compared to the other beam. So in that case, that phase shift is there, and that because of that phase shift, we can get the interference pattern on the screen. So for that particular thing, the waves which are coming in both the beams should be coherent to each other. It should be monochromatic. So you have to choose a light source which is highly monochromatic, coherent, and it is visible. Okay, so it should be in a visible spectrum, so that you can align that particular, and you can observe the phenomena which is happening inside the cavity, right? So you have to work in a visible spectrum, and you have to choose the wavelength accordingly. Okay, now majorly the sorry for this noise, actually some building constructions are going on in the institute. Okay, so regarding classification of optical techniques, there are three major types of optical techniques, that is a transmission, reflection based techniques, and scattering based techniques. Okay, so basically these reflection based techniques are the techniques like ellipsometry. In this case, the change in a polarization of light, which is just an imprint on the surface, and the reflected beam, how the polarization of that particular light is changing, that is measured in case of this reflection based techniques. In case of a scattering, this Tyndall effect plays the major role, that how the light which is passing through a particular medium, and then the particle which are present in that particular path of that particular lights, so that particle get the charges from electric charges from that get activated, and it emits the light, and that's why because of emission of the light, the scattering takes place, and we just try to figure out the intensity patterns that are coming on the screen, and then we find out the properties. In case of a transmission, we usually pass the light beam through the solution. Okay, and the solution, so the solution is usually passed through a, just a minute. Just a minute. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah. So there are three techniques that we were discussing about, and the transmission technique is the refractive index based technique, in which the light is passed through the cavity filled of the fluid, and whatever changes that are present, that are happening, that means whatever the gradient, concentration gradient or temperature gradient that is developing inside the cavity will be visible on the other side on the screen. Okay, so in this particular talk, we will mainly focus on the transmission techniques, because we will discuss about the images, whole field images that are coming on the screen, and how to process that images that we'll talk about in this talk. So we'll especially move on with the transmission techniques. So there are majorly 3 types of transmission techniques, okay, so that are vigorously used right now for a diffusional studies, that is interferometry, Schlieren, and shadowgraphy. So in case of interferometry, it's a 2-beam techniques. There are 2 beams which are coming at a single point, which we call as a superimposition of these 2 beams, and whatever changes in a one beam, which we call as a test beam, as compared to the reference beam, is visible in terms of interference pattern on the screen. So that is the one thing. Then in case of a Schlieren, that means it is the optical path difference that we are measuring in case of interferometry. Then in case of a Schlieren, we are dealing with the deflection of the beam. That means the beam is passing through the same cavity. That means we have a fluid in a single cavity, and now in case of interferometry, we have passed the test beam through the cavity, and the reference beam is passing through the air, and we have superimposed these 2 beams, and we are getting interference pattern. But in case of a Schlieren, it is a single beam technique now. So here we are passing the beam through the test section, and then there is a bending effect that is taking place, that is deflection is taking place, and we are getting a figure on the screen, but which is somewhat elongated, right? So in that case, that particular thing will happen when the concentration gradient, that means in case of interferometry, the concentration gradient is very low, that means very small. In that case, there will be no deflection of the light beam. But when there is a higher concentration gradient that you are playing, that means that you are providing inside the cavity, then in that case, Schlieren, you will have to go for a Schlieren in that case. Okay. So, but if you have a concentration gradient, that drastic concentration gradient in your field, let's say, and you want to study the diffusional characteristics of that particular fluid, okay, in that case, you have to go for shadowgraphy. Shadowgraphy it contains the beam deflection as well as the displacement of that entire beam. Okay, so the interferometry is the technique which is used for low concentration gradient. Then for a higher concentration gradient, you can go for Schlieren, and even higher concentration gradient, you will go for shadowgraphy, because Schlieren will not work over there. Wherever the deflection of, that means displacement of a beam itself is taking place, that means initially it is at some point, and when you are putting the concentration gradient in your cavity, the entire beam gets shifted from its original position to somewhere else, so that this delta will be there. Okay, and this is the point where the beam is, you can observe the beam. So in that case, there are 2 things, that is a delta and alpha, which are playing the role. So that's why it is a double derivative system. In case of a Schlieren, it is a alpha only. There is no delta, that is no displacement as such. Then we can say it is a single derivative system. Okay, and here there is no bending effect or deflection. So this we can simply call it as a refractive index based technique. Okay, so how this systems works, that we'll try to define now. Now this is an experimental setup for Mach Zehnder interferometer. Okay, so in this technique, basically there is a laser source. That means, as we have defined earlier, that is a coherent monochromatic source. Monochromatic means single wavelength, and coherent source, there is a parallel wavelength. Waves are traveling in a parallel manner to each other, and it is falling on a collimator. Okay, first the diverging beam is there, so that 1 mm diameter beam which is coming out of the laser will get diverges, and then a collimator is there. So that collimator actually receives the beam of the size that you want, size in case of a diameter, and then after collimator you will get a parallel beam of light. That is the property of that collimating lens. So you are now with a diameter as per your requirement. Here we have used the 50 mm diameter beam. So this 50 mm diameter, that will come to the first beam splitter. Now the beam splitter will split the light into two. This beam splitter has a property to split the light without affecting the properties of the light. Okay, so it is still monochromatic and coherent source of light with a 50 mm diameter beam. So it is going to the mirror 1, and the another beam is passing through the test cell. So test cell and reference cell is over here. So basically this test cell is there are two trays over there. Okay, and in case of a simple experiment of a conduction, what we do is we will put both the trays at a single temperature, and also in a reference cell also we will put both the trays at a single temperature, let's say at 25 degrees Celsius, and then we'll replace this tray which on the top of the cavity by another tray which is having, let's say, 27 degrees Celsius temperature. So there will be a temperature gradient delta T of 2 degrees Celsius. So the diffusion of front will move from top to bottom in the cavity. Okay, so thermal diffusion is taking place from top to bottom, but reference cell will be at uniform temperature of a 25 degrees Celsius throughout the experiment. So that's why it will act as a reference cell. So in this way, we can carry out the experiments, and we can superimpose this reference beam and test beam. Reference beam will give you the initial condition of that particular experiment, and test beam will give you whatever the timely progress in the diffusion in the cavity. So after superimposition, you will get the beam on the screen, where you can continuously, timely, you can observe how the diffusion is in a progress inside the test cavity. Okay, so the progress of the diffusion phenomena you can visualize on the screen, and on the basis of the pixel size of your camera, and on the basis of the frames per second of your camera, you can record these images, and these images in case of interferometry are called as interferograms. So these are the interferograms for candle. So you can see that in the periphery of candle, how the temperature variation takes place, that is clearly visible in terms of vertical fringes over here, right? So you can imagine how precisely the interferometer can give you the temperature variation all over the field around the candle flame. Okay, so similarly, this is a wedge fringe setting. You can carry out the displacement of a wedge fringes from the horizontal initial horizontal fringe, and you can carry out the calculation accordingly. So we'll see that one, and then experimental procedure as I have explained to you. This is particularly the interferometer that is present at IIT Kanpur. So here, as I said, this is the laser, and this is the collimating. There is an expansion lens over there, and then this is a collimator. After collimator, a parallel beam of light is coming to the test cell, and over here there is a beam splitter 1. Here there is a beam splitter 2. Here a beam. This is a mirror 2. And this is beam splitter 2. After that, screen is there, and with the help of a camera, we can record the images over a time period. Okay, so now moving to how to analyze these particular images. Now we have received images of a diffusion front which is moving in a downward direction in the test cavity, right? So but you have an image with you, and you need to convert that image into concentration and temperature. So how to carry out this journey, right? So for that particular thing, first thing you have to understand is the light wherever it is coming, it talks in terms of refractive index. So refractive index is the ratio of speed of light to speed of that particular light through speed of light through vacuum to speed of light through the medium, right? So whatever that ratio is there, that is the property of that particular material on the basis of the temperature and pressure conditions, right? So Laurent-Laurent relationship gives you the relation between density and refractive index, or temperature and refractive index, and K is nothing but a constant. Okay, so if you know this relation, since we know the relation between the refractive index and density, or refractive index and temperature in case of a liquid, then we can use that correlation to find out the further that means density out of refractive index. Okay, so how the refractive index is related to the light. Okay, so see, this phi is nothing but there are two waves which are coming. Okay, for a superimposition in case of interferometry we have discussed, right? So the two waves, one wave which is test beam is lagging behind because of the concentration difference or density difference that the beam has observed in the test cavity as compared to the reference beam, right? So that's why that particular phase difference in the light is phi, and the total wavelength of light including that crust and trough is 2 pi. Okay, so we can take that phi, which is the difference between the phases, and the entire wavelength, we can take it as a psi. Okay, epsilon. So this delta PL upon lambda, this delta PL is nothing but path length. Okay, change in a path length upon lambda 0. Okay, that is a wavelength of light. So this change in a path length, we can write it as a n into dz. That is the distance, and n is nothing but the ratio of velocities, right? So that particular factor into distance, we can get the path length. So in this way, the refractive index is related to the that means is measured, and it is related to the temperature or density with the help of Laurent-Laurent relationship. So we can write this particular equation in this form, that is dN by dt T minus T reference. Okay, now this T minus T reference will give you the what exactly is the change which is happening when there is a shift of lambda 0. Okay, so when there is one wavelength of phase shift between two beams, that particular temperature, that means what is the temperature that has created this one wavelength of shift is delta T, that is T minus T reference. So that is nothing but delta rho epsilon is density, which is creating a one wavelength of phase difference in the two beams, or delta T epsilon is nothing but a temperature which is creating a one wavelength of difference between the phases of two, that means reference and test beam, that you come to know. Now, if you know this delta rho epsilon and delta T epsilon is nothing but that creating a temperature or a density which is creating a one wavelength of phase shift, and if you here you know the lambda, right, that is wavelength of your light, and this is length along the direction of passage of light through your test cavity. Okay, and this dN by d rho or dN by dt, that is a property that you can easily find out with the help of refractometers, right? So on the refractometer, you will get the data of a refractive index as a function of concentration, or refractive index as a function of temperature. So you can generate that data for the liquid where you want to carry out the diffusional studies. Okay, so once you have dN by dt, dN by d rho data, and length you already know, lambda wavelength you know, so you can find out the delta rho epsilon or delta T epsilon as per the requirement. And once you know delta T epsilon or delta rho epsilon, the another thing that you should know is these fringes which are coming on the screen. Okay, that particular fringe, each fringe is an interferogram of constant phase or refractive index or temperature or density. So this particular black band and the bright band combinedly gives you a rough and crust. Understand? So it is completely, that is a one wavelength, okay, which is visible on the screen in the form of fringes. Okay, so there you can say that this is a one wavelength. Again, this is another wavelength. This is third wavelength, fourth wavelength, right? That is a phase shift. Okay, that much phase shift is happening over there. So in that case, you can say that if I know the top temperature, because you know the top temperature because you are applying the gradient over there, right? So it is at a 27 degrees Celsius, and let's say 0.2 is a delta T epsilon that you have measured out of this calculations. Okay, so what you will do is 27 minus this delta T epsilon will give you the temperature at this particular band, black band. Okay, center of the black band. Then at the next center of the black band, you have to again subtract the delta T epsilon from 27. That means delta T epsilon into 2 from 27. So that you will get 0.4 you have to minus from the 27. So likewise, if you go on multiplying by the number of the fringe and delta T epsilon and subtracting it from the top temperature, then you will get the temperature of each fringe over here. And as the property of the fringe is that all over the fringe, the temperature remains constant, concentration remains constant, density remains constant. So you can say that if the temperature over here is, let's say, 26.5, then the temperature over here also will be 26.5. In this way, you can get the temperature distribution all over the field or the concentration distribution all over the field. And once you have the concentration distribution or the temperature distribution as per your requirement, you can carry out measurement of various properties of diffusional phenomena that is happening inside the cavity. So how to do that? So in case if you are passing a beam through the test cavity and you are studying, let's say, suspension phenomena, that means suspension is there, colloidal suspension, then as compared to the liquid solution, the suspension will create some of the refraction errors in the beam. Okay, and in order to take in account, you can use such type of formulation, that is delta rho epsilon is equal to 1 by L dN by d rho, but whatever changes that is happening is in the wavelength while passing that light through the suspension. That's why such type of error calculations can be used. That means you can carry out the MATLAB programming by using this particular delta rho epsilon equation over here, right? And you can get the exact delta rho epsilon value by accounting this refraction error, and you can use that this interferogram technique, interferometry technique, for carrying out the measurement of diffusional properties in a complex fluids also. So that also I will discuss about that also in the some of the next slides. So there are sources of error, that is interferometric error, then temperature fluctuation, control, density, match of the test and reference beam initially, so that you should get a initially when the temperature in both the cavities will be same and uniformly distributed, you will not get any fringe or on the screen. So that is a zero fringe condition that we have to achieve in while starting each experiment, so that it will be a reference point. So all these things you have to keep in mind, and you have to carry out some of the alignment before starting the experiment. Okay. So now, up till now, we have discussed about only one phenomena. Let's say in case of a conduction that we have discussed in the last slides, conduction. But if along with conduction, let's say in case of a thermodiffusion. So in case of a thermodiffusion, what is happening? the concentration gradients are created because of a temperature gradient that are present in the suspension or solution. Okay, so whenever you are applying a temperature gradient, there are chances of creation of concentration gradient. So this is simultaneous heat and mass transfer problem, right? So in that case, there are two equations which are generated over there. So in order to solve these two equations simultaneously, we should have that means two phenomena simultaneously. We should have two equations. So in that case, you can use two wavelength instead of single wavelength. So the two wavelength will have the wavelength λ1 and λ2, and rest of the things you have to, that means the refractive index properties, that is del n1 by del c, del n2 by del c, or that you have to calculate from the refractometer. There are refractometers which work on the basis of different wavelength, multi-line wavelength. Okay, so you can use that such type of refractometer which is working at different temperatures as well. So you can collect that data and you can find out these slopes. Okay, so if you know the slopes, okay, dn by dt and dn by dc, and since you know the λ1, λ2 value, now when you are getting interferogram on the screen, you can separate that interferograms with the help of computational techniques. Okay, so there is a that means a direct command in a MATLAB that you can use to separate these two interferograms. Okay, once you separate these interferograms, you can see the number. This is nothing but a number of fringe. You can carry out the calculation at particular position from the top, how many number of fringes are there. So in case of let's say it's a blue and red over here wavelength, right, light. So in case of a blue, what is the number of the fringes up to particular location, and in case of a red one, what is number of fringes at up to that particular location. So you can take it as a n1 and n2, and you can find out delta c epsilon and delta t epsilon. Once you know the delta t epsilon, delta c epsilon, the rest of the things you know that you have to subtract it in case of a conduction from the top temperature, and you can find out the temperature distribution. Likewise, if you will know about the concentration at the top, so you can take sample from there, you can titrate it, and once it is known, then you can carry out the measurement of concentration distribution as well in the cavity. Okay, so in this way you can work on a simultaneous heat and mass transfer problems as well with the help of this interferometry technique. Now we are, let's talk about the Schlieren. In case of a Schlieren, we have in case of a Schlieren technique, we have a beam which is passing through the test cell, and because of deflection, there is the beam gets deflected, and we fix a knife edge at the over there, and because of this knife edge, the beam is getting deflected, and the deflected beam is partially get cropped, and because of that, the deflection which is happening in the cavity is get enhanced. So this particular knife edge is placed at the focal point. Okay, so that the whatever the changes that are happening inside the diffusional changes, what are happening in the cavity will be magnified, and you can see that on the screen. Okay, so there is also, this is a jet type Schlieren is a traditional technique. There is also a new technique that is a rainbow Schlieren deflectometry. In this particular case, it's a simple setup, and you can use a white light source also over here, and then the collimator, and you can put a test cell where the diffusional phenomena will occur. Here you can study even a large gradient phenomena like boiling, that you can study over here. So in that case, the boiling phenomena, you can get such type of images with the help of this color Schlieren, okay, rainbow Schlieren, and we can see that the drop is forming at the surface, and you can imagine that particular drop, and you can carry out the concentration and temperature distribution calculations in this particular field over there. So only the thing is that before starting the experiment, let's say it is happening in the water, bubbles dynamics we are studying in the water. So initially you will take a water, okay, and you will carry out the hue distribution calibration for that particular water, that is a fluid that you are going to use in your diffusional studies. So if you know that is hue distribution is nothing but color intensity distribution. Okay, so if the light is deflected with this much color, then if it is yellow color, what will be the temperature? Then you can increase the temperature, and you can see that if the beam is shifted to the red green color, then what is the temperature in the cavity? In this way, you have to carry out the calibration first, and now once you have that table of a calibration, that is which will give you the hue number and the temperature, then you will study this phenomena, and whatever the color combination over here, contrast is there, then accordingly the temperature distribution will be assigned. Okay, so in this way it works. And in case of a Schlieren, we fix this knife edge over here. Okay, and with when the diffusion phenomena occur in the cavity, there is a deflection in the beam, and because of that deflection, there is a variation in the intensity, right? So when there is initially when there is no diffusion phenomena occurring in the cavity, you will take image, and the intensity distribution of the image that you will note down. That means you can calculate with the help of a computational programming on a MATLAB. Okay, and once you know the intensity distribution of that particular image, okay, at the initial condition, then the diffusional phenomena will occur as a function of time. Okay, and then you will record the images at a different specific time intervals during the experiment, and you will compare the intensity distribution of that particular images taken over a time period with the initial image, which is having an intensity initial intensity distribution. Then you can get a delta I over here, and I is again the initial distribution. Okay, so delta I by I, once you know, then delta A is already the deflection from the original knife edge, that means image. So that delta A is with you, and the focal length is also known to you once you are fixed with the instrument, and you can carry out the measurement on LHS side. So if you know the LHS side, you can carry out the integration, and you can find out the refractive index. So once you know the refractive index distribution, you can convert it into density or temperature using Lorentz-Lorentz relationship. Okay, so all the things are playing role, because here there in interferometry we have directly measured refractive index. Here we have measured the intensity, and from intensity we are measuring the refractive index. Okay, and then from refractive index we are measuring density, temperature, data as per your requirement. Okay, now this is how the picture looks for this Schlieren in case of a candle flame. Okay, there the vertical fringes were coming. We can see the vertical fringes in case of interferometry, but in case of a Schlieren, you will get such type of images where the contrast distribution is there. Okay, intensity distribution is there. So here intensity is very high, so the temperature is higher on a higher side. As we move away from the flame, we can see that the temperature is going down, and then it is dark. So we can say that in the dark field there is a uniform temperature distribution, but the gradient are there, temperature gradients are there on the field where there is a brightness, right? So in this way we can carry out the measurement using a Schlieren technique. And shadowgraphy technique, where the deflection and displacement both are playing the role. Over there, when the light beam is passed, you can use laser, or white sodium lamp also can be used over here. So it's very cheap technique. Okay, in terms of cost, that means very you can have it in your budget. Okay, and it can be used drastically for carrying out the contrast measurement because that are created because of a concentration gradient which are present in the test cell. Now you can use this formulation to carry out calculation of a refractive index. How to carry out calculation of a refractive index from this contrast distribution images is you just have to take an image first, okay? While after passing the light through the test cell, you will get an image that is displaced image, right? And that image, what is the intensity distribution in that image, that you have to calculate, right, with the help of the programming. And then once you know the intensity distribution in that image, then you will carry out the diffusional phenomena in the test cavity, and timely you will record the images, shadowgraph. In case of shadowgraphy, we call it as shadowgraph. They are interferometer, interferogram. So the shadowgraph you will record at over a period of time, and you will go on comparing the intensity distribution in each shadowgraph with the initial one, that is I0 over here. So I0 minus IS, initially there will be higher intensities, and as the concentration gradient is there, concentration is increasing, so that's why intensity will go down. So IS upon IS, you will get delta I upon I0. That means this particular, it should be I0. So delta I upon IS, that you can measure over here. And then ZS is the equipment specific property. So that is a geometric property. So ZS is known to you, distance between the screen and the center of the cavity. And Na is nothing but refractive index of air. That is also very well known. So you can calculate the LHS side, and once you know the LHS side, you can get the density distribution, refractive index distribution, and from refractive index distribution you can find out the density distribution or temperature distribution. So in this way, you can use the shadowgraphy technique, and by measuring the initial and the final image intensity or timely taken shadowgraphs, and that will give you the intensity data over a time period, and you can compare that one and you can get the refractive index distribution. This is how the shadowgraph for the candle flame looks like. So in case of a Schlieren, you might have seen that there is only a bright spot was there, but here you can clearly see the gradients, because in case over here these are mild gradients are there in this area, but the gradients are very clear at the edges of the flame. So that's why in case of a shadowgraphy, you can see that particular part in a bright space. Okay, so you can carry out the distribution, that means intensity distribution, and carry out the measurement of concentration and temperature all over the field on the pixel basis. Okay, so on the pixel basis, you are getting a temperature and concentration data. Okay, that field is with you. So in conclusion, for this part that we have studied is the first, the screen, that means on the screen there is a phase difference, then you can use interferometry. When there is a higher concentration gradient, you can use only deflection is there, you can use Schlieren, and when even higher concentration gradient is there, displacement plus deflection is happening, then you can use shadowgraphy. Okay, so let us move ahead with the applications of this particular part. Okay, so we have used various suspensions, and basically I have prepared this Laponite suspension because these Laponite particles, initially it is in a disc shape. It is a disc shaped particle. It's a well-known dimensions are, that is 25 nanometer around is the diameter, and thickness is around 1 nanometer. Okay, so we have used that particular material, this particular material, and it just in a white powder form initially, and then when we mix it into a water and stir it pretty well, then it just sucks water inside it, and then it swells that particular material, and then it forms a aqueous suspension. Okay, so that suspended particle has the negative charges on the surface, and on the periphery it has a positive charges. So it is having a heterogeneous charge distribution. And when it is mixed with, that means processed with this tetrasodium pyrophosphate, then these pyrophosphate ions get attached on the periphery and it forms entirely negatively charged particles. So this is a homogeneously charged particle, this is a heterogeneously charged particle. And this brand is called as a Laponite RD, and this one material is called as a Laponite JS. It forms sole forming suspension. That means sole means it is a stable suspension in this way. And it forms gel forming suspension. That means it go on aging with time. So it can, if we invert this bottle, it will not fall down with time. But initially it is also just like a liquid. So in order to study the properties of this material, we have used various solutions. We have also tried initially with these optical techniques for benchmarking studies. We have carried out some calculations with solutions, and then we take that optical techniques to the suspension, and then we have received some of the data, and on the basis of data, how we have defined the dynamics of that particles, that we'll discuss in couple of slides. Okay, so this is a benchmarking study. Here, the measurement of binary mass diffusion coefficient of solutions in a deionized water using laser interferometry has been performed. Okay, so in this case, how to use this computer, that means all these things, that means how to process the data that we have generated from the experiments on computer, and how to get, that means frame that particular programs on a MATLAB, and what is the input that is required, that we are discussing over here. So in this particular case, you will find that means it's a binary system, and at the bottom we have that means first of all we filled the cavity with a liquid, okay, and then we have maintained the temperature in the cavity, uniform temperature in the cavity. Now we have removed the specific amount of water to get this much height, 0 to H1 in the cavity, and then with the help of capillary action, we have inserted a high density solution at the bottom, and then we have studied the diffusion, binary diffusion in this particular cavity. But for analysis of the interferograms that are generated during this experiment, we should have a analytical solution first, so that once we get the analytical data, we can compare it with the experimental one. So that's why these are the boundary conditions that is we have used initially to carry out the calculations. And with the help of this boundary condition of a del by del, del rho by del y at is equal to 0 over here as well as at the top, okay, we got these curves. But when we go on increasing the time span, we find that all these curves are passing through a single point. But after some time, there is a displacement from this point. So this particular point I is basically we have observed on the thickness of 0.2, that is 0 to H1. So this is the interface between the solute and solvent that we have observed, and at this interface there is a concentration at that interface remains constant for a particular period of time, and after that time the concentration starts reducing. So in that case, we decide to work with the constant concentration boundary condition at the interface. So again, we carry out the calculation by considering constant boundary condition at the interface between solute and solvent, and then we come up with analytical solution. So by using the analytical solution, now the data of a temperature, that means in this case the concentration data in terms of density that we have received from the interferograms, that we have compared with these analytical equations using a MATLAB programming. Okay, and then with the help of this, we can carry out the regression analysis to find out the property that is over here. That property is nothing but diffusivity, D. Okay, so we have calculated diffusivity of the binary system by using these optical techniques. Okay, So in over here, the another task was in front of us is the sensitivity of the data that we have generated. Now, how to calculate the sensitivity of the data? The sensitivity of the estimated parameter determined from the recorded interferogram to the measurement. So that means over here we have measured this rho over the entire field, right? And using this rho, that means measured data, okay? And what we have to we want to measure is the property, that is diffusivity of that particular material. So the sensitivity of the property which is to be measured, that is diffusivity, with respect to the data that is we are going to use to find out this property, is density. Okay, so d rho by dd as a function of position, okay, along height of the cavity, that is 0 to h minus h1, right? So h minus h1, this one. So if we study, then we came to know, that means we just solve this particular equation by using the analytical equation for rho, right? So this is theta, and then we come up with the solution, that means equation, analytical equation for sensitivity analysis. And when we plot this sensitivity analysis, we find that as a function of time, the sensitivity goes on increasing. Okay, it achieves maxima and then reduces. So this is the particular time period. That means when we put the binary suspension, that means two layers, okay, solute and solvent layers, and the diffusion starts, it goes on, that means the sensitivity of the experiment goes on increasing, and it will achieve a maxima and then decreases. That means the diffusion front slowly moves up, and when it reaches to the top, near to the top plate, the sensitivity of the experiment goes down. Also initially, that means it drastically increases, then it reduces slowly. Okay, so that means when the diffusion front is moving to the top plate, that means reaching to top plate, back mixing effect may play the role over there, and that's why the sensitivity of that particular phenomena happening, or a diffusional phenomena, is reducing. That's why we should consider the data in this particular time zone, that is 0.402 to 2.72. So that is what the sensitivity analysis gives you, what is the exact data, and it also tells us that to what much extent this experiment should run, so that you will get a sensitivity data, and you don't have to run the experiment blindly to until its completion entirely, it's up to its end, because diffusional phenomena are very slow phenomena, right? In case of a thermal diffusion, at least you can get it instantly, but in case of a mass diffusion, it will take several hours, maybe 24 hours. In case of a complex fluids or suspensions, you will find that it takes around 2 to 3 days for completion of diffusion process. So that's why this sensitivity analysis is very important to carry out, and that can be possible with the help of, we can use these equations on a MATLAB programming, and we can carry out such type of data frame to carry out the measurement, that means to sort out the sensitivity data for your measurement. So likewise, we have also done for the position, that means from T1 to T2 as a function of time. Okay, and the longer time period data within a constant interfacial concentration time window shows a high sensitivity, and it is best for mass diffusivity measurement. That is what we come to know from this sensitivity analysis. So this sensitivity analysis you can use for your experiments, where whatever your experiments are, you can use it, since you will have some property to be determined, and you will have some data which is required for calculation of that property. So there, in this situation, you can use this sensitivity analysis to find out the sensitivity data for your experiments. Okay, so these are the interferograms, exactly how it looks like. That means we have, initially there was a no fringe condition, that is setting of the interferometer that we have done. So the two beams are at one phase, okay, single phase. There is no phase difference, right? So, and once you place the layer at the bottom, okay, so this solute layer at the bottom, the fringe generation will start because the concentration gradient is there. Here you cannot see it directly by your eyes because it's very compact interference fringe patterns are over there. So if you just maximize this particular zone, you can see there are fringes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Likewise, you can go on measuring the fringes, and once you know the fringe position, okay, along height of the diffusion cell, and in this particular zone, that means initially there is a water, right? So this water concentration is density is with you. So you can consider this as a water density, so that the first fringe after the this is a water fringe, the water density, and the first fringe after this will have the density of water plus delta rho epsilon. Here on the second fringe, you will find that water density plus 2 into delta rho epsilon. Plus here it will be 3 into delta rho epsilon plus water density. Likewise, you can get the density distribution, and you can have, after getting the density distribution, you can plot the density distribution over here. Okay, these are the densities that we got on the different fringes, and this is the analytical data that we have generated using a computational programming on MATLAB. And then by comparing these two data set, you can see that initially this is the zone that is 0.4 to 0.8 is the zone of a high sensitivity window. So you can see that the matching of the analytical and experimental data is pretty good within a sensitivity window. Before sensitivity window, it is not showing that much good combination, okay, that good fit. So it is better to go for sensitivity analysis of the data and carry out, you can move towards accuracy in your experiment to determine the various diffusional properties using optical techniques. So these are some properties that we have measured. That means diffusional mass diffusion diffusivities for sucrose in a water solution, and this is also for glucose solution, and as a function of a temperature, how it varies, and concentration, how it varies. That is also we have defined. So this was the benchmarking study for our experiment. Now, once we come up with the idea that this is how the experiment, and we have compared our data reflecting that is mass diffusivity data with a reference value, we can see that there is a very good combination of the reference values and the data, because in case of liquid solutions, we will not have much more bifurcation from the diffusional, that means the diaphragm cell calculation, because here the liquid can easily pass through the micropores of a diaphragm cell, and it can give little bit good, that means more or less a good match between the measured diffusivity values using optical techniques as well as diffusional cell, right? But in case of a suspension, we cannot implement diaphragm cell, so the optical techniques has specialty over there. So we have move on after doing a benchmarking study to the complex fluids. Okay, so first we have worked with the suspensions, so sole forming suspension. But in case of a sole forming suspension, while moving towards the colloidal suspension, first problem that we face is the refractive index measurement. Okay, in case of a solution, it was very good, easy. Let's say in here for water we have measured. So in case of a water, the refractive index is constant. That means after with time. So we just put the sample, water sample, in the cuvette of a refractometer, and then we find that the reading is fixed. It is not changing with time. But when we put a solution, the suspension, okay, sole forming suspension. Over there, we find that with time the refractive index is changing. This is happening because some of the particles, there is a reflection when the refractive index technique, actually it works on a reflection basis. So the reflected light beam is not going properly to the receiver. That's why it is not giving a proper information about the refractive index. Okay, so that's why in order to take care of this particular thing, this is the initial problem that we faced while implementing optical technique for diffusion studies in polarized suspensions. Okay, so in order to solve this problem, we developed a interferometry based refractive index measurement technique. So in this particular technique, we have just used refractive index properties, interferometer properties, that is the laser light when passes through the test and a reference cell, and initially when the both the test cell as well as reference cell is at a single temperature, and it is both are at initial condition, then there will be no fringe condition, right? This is an infinite fringe condition, that is we call it as. When we replace the test cell suspension sample, that means water is there in both the cavities and maintained at a single temperature. Now we have removed the water from the test cavity and we have replaced it with the suspension. And because of that, since the wavelength of light and intensity of light is very high over here, we have received a phase difference on the cavity and in the form of fringes. Okay, now there are fringes because the density difference between reference cell and test cell. Okay, now in order to reduce this density difference, we have added glucose solution to highly concentrated glucose solution drop by drop in the reference cell. We have enhanced the density of reference cell, and a point comes where the density of reference cell and test cell becomes equal, and we got an infinite fringe setting again on the screen. So that is the point that we take out as the point where the density information of the test cell is get transferred into the reference cell, and that's why we have taken the sample from the reference cell. We have measured the refractive index of that particular sample, and that particular density is the density of the suspension which is present in the test cell. So we have carried out several experiments on that at different temperatures, 21 to 35 degrees Celsius, and then we this is how it looks like. Initially the infinite fringe setting, then we put 1.5% mass percent suspension, so we got some fringes. When we increase the concentration little bit, we got increased number of fringes, and then we have manipulated that concentration in the test reference cell, and we again got the infinite fringe setting, and we got the data for refractive index of the suspension. So this is the technique that we have developed for carrying out measurement of refractive index of suspensions. Okay, so we have validated this one by using a Lorentz equation, extended Lorentz equation, which correlate the refractive index density with the wavelength as well. Okay, so with the help of, because of this good fit between the experimental and analytical values, we proposed this experimental techniques can be used for the solution, refractive index measurement in a solution. Now we have a data of a refractive index for solutions, suspensions now. Okay, for LaPrunette suspension. Now we carry out the diffusion studies with the help of LaPrunette suspension, where we put the solute layer at the bottom and solvent at the top, and we have observed as a function of time, we have recorded the interferograms, and we find that the match between the, we have also implemented over here, we have also taken care of a refraction error, varies from 3.5 to 3.7%. We have taken care of this refraction error with the help of the delta rho epsilon, that refraction error factor that we have considered, and with the help of MATLAB programming, we have removed this refraction error, and then we just fit that experimental data and analytical data, and we can see that there is a good fit between the experimental analytical values. And in this way, we find out the properties, mass diffusion properties of Lyapunov-Sold dispersion. But you can see that there is that means initially the things are increasing, that means diffusivity is increasing, it is achieving a maxima, and then again it is decreasing. Okay, in case that means over the temperature period, and over a concentration, you can see there is an increase in a mass diffusivity with the increase in a concentration. So that becomes interesting data, that is that gives us some information about the Sold dispersion. Okay, so what is happening inside the dispersion, Lyapunov-Sold dispersion, and how it is behaving, that means how the particles are behaving as a function of a temperature. Okay, how the particles are behaving as a function of concentration. All this data is encoded in this particular graph. But how to explain that one? So that's why we have carried out some of the measurements of some of the properties of that particular fluid, other properties, that is electrostatic repulsion and van der Waals attractive forces, that we have studied with the help of the measurement of zeta potential of that particular material. Okay, and then particle mobility, that is that we have measured with the help, that we have taken from the reference. Okay, and then rise in a temperature, where we find that rise in temperature continuously increase the charge density on the rim of Lyapunov metal. So this is the one point that we come to know, that is charge density is increasing with temperature. Second, zeta potential, we can see the magnitude of zeta potential is decreasing as a function of temperature. Okay, so we can say that the stability of the suspension is decreasing as a function of as we increase the temperature. So there is a coagulation may be taking place as a function of temperature over there. Also, when we study, that means when we go back to the Stern theory, okay, for molecular dynamics of a Sold dispersion, we can see that the zeta potential is a potential at a surface separating the immobile part of double layer from the diffuse part, and the zeta potential is related to the force and distance over which the particle can repel each other and thus prevent flocculation. Okay, but that zeta potential in our measurement is decreasing with increasing temperature. So it indicates that the forces, attractive and repulsive forces between the particle are increasing, and that's why there might be the coagulation factor playing the role over there. Okay, and also there is it gives us the correlation between the thickness of double layer, that is with the temperature and concentration. So as the double layer thickness decreases with increasing concentration or decreasing temperature, that is double layer directly proportional to the temperature. So this is the information. So combining all the information, we also carry out measurement of viscosity on a rheometer. Okay, and this it shows that with increase in the concentration it is increasing, and with increase in a temperature it is decreasing. So we come to know from this particular calculation of all these various properties of that particular suspension, Sold suspension, we come to know that the effect of increasing thickness of double layer as a function of temperature, okay, and viscosity, which is decreasing as a function of temperature, dominates the effect of increasing thermal energy as well as particle charge density at low temperature. So with the particle charge density is increasing with increasing temperature, and the thermal energy is also increasing with increasing temperature. But because of diffusional properties, that is mass diffusivity is increasing with increase in a temperature achieving maximum. So till that period, that is below 20 degrees Celsius, the effect of increasing thickness of double layer and viscosity dominates the effect of increasing thermal energy as well as particle charge density. That is what the message that is we have proposed out of this dynamics, that means study of this dynamics with the help of, and all these things are based on the diffusional studies that we have done using optical techniques. Okay, at the same time, at a higher temperature where the diffusivity curve is coming down from maxima. The increasing particle mobility and particle charge density on edges dominate the viscosity and increasing double layer effect with temperature. So that is the thing, that how in this way you can predict the dynamics of the diffusion of particles in the suspension. Now, in order to verify how the it is increasing with the help of concentration, we have also carried out the major experiment by varying the concentration of LJS, Lyapunov JS, that means the suspension in a solute layer. Okay, and we have added some NaCl in that particular layer. So NaCl has actually plays the role of just clogging that positive charges present on the periphery of the disk. So negative charges on the periphery of the disk and providing a positive charges, so that it enhances the heterogeneity in the suspension, okay, on the particle surface. So that this particular thing, in this particular thing, we observe that with increase in the concentration of NaCl, the heterogeneity of the particle increases, and that's why the diffusion coefficient, that is mass diffusivity, we can see at particular concentration. When we increase the concentration of NaCl, the mass diffusivity is decreasing, right? So that means the repulsive interaction between the particles, that is initially in case of Lyapunov JS, as I said, the particles are negatively charged and they are not heterogeneously charged initially, they are entirely negatively charged. That's why they are there is a repulsive interaction between the particles, which enhances the diffusion property with concentration. That means in a confined volume, if we are increasing the number of particles which are having a uniform charge distribution, then there will be an enhanced repulsive interaction, and that's why these particles are trying to move from solute layer to the solvent layer. But as we increase the heterogeneity in that particle, the diffusion factor will come down, right? So that is what we come to know, and it just supports the hypothesis that we proposed, for the dynamics in the soul forming suspension based on the mass diffusivity data, right? So similarly, we have also used shadowgraphy technique, and in this shadowgraphy technique, during the experimentation, we have find that a light streak is coming on which is because of a bending effect of a light while passing through the diffusion cell, and this bending effect are progressing with time, right? So it gives us idea about how the diffusion is progressing, and binary diffusion is progressing in the cavity, and in this way we can get the data for, that means concentration, that means how the progress of a diffusion is taking place in the cavity. So we thought that it should be related to the diffusivity. Okay, so there is no contrast distribution measurement in that particular case, but if we can measure, if we measure the contrast distribution, that is also is possible. So in this way, the contrast distribution will be there, and if you carry out the measurement of refractive index from the contrast distribution, as I explained in the last slides, some of the last slides, so you can convert that into density. So we have converted that into density, and we have compared it with the analytical solution. Okay, so it gives a good match between the analytical and experimental value, and accordingly we measure the diffusivity. Okay, so but at the same time, when we have observed that light streak is moving with time, okay, so we propose that there should be the optical sensor should be fixed on the screen, and that optical sensor will just take the data about the time and position of that particular light streak, okay, and if that data is taken by the computer, automatically it will save that particular data, and we have developed a functional form of which correlate the displacement of this particular light streak with that of a diffusivity. Okay, so once you know the displacement data, which will be taken by this optical sensor on the computer, and it will automatically carry out the calculation by using this functional form, using a MATLAB programming, and it will convert that all the data in, and it will give you a mass diffusivity of that particular experiment. So in this particular experiment, you just have to put the two layers, solute and solvent, and you just have to leave the system at particular temperature where you want the data, and it will automatically generate the data for mass diffusivity. So in this, so here there is no need of putting a stirrer into the beaker and then you stir it and then take a sample, titrate it and all. There is no need of doing all these things. You can use optical techniques, and simply by putting the sets, that means solute and solvent, you can after 12 hours you can get the mass diffusivity data. So this is how simply the optical techniques can make these diffusional studies very comfortable, and we can carry out our other works along with it. That means we can carry out defining the dynamics of these fluids by using this data. Okay, so the computational techniques are very important in the supportive of these optical techniques. Okay, similarly we have okay, so these are other applications of this particular approach that we have developed for measurement of temperature field, concentration field in the cavity where the diffusional phenomena are in a progress. So this is a thermal diffusivity of a nanofluids that we have measured. So in this particular case, at the top there is a higher temperature, okay, TH, and there is a cold temperature at the bottom. So it's just like a 27 and 25 degrees Celsius, right? And then we can use this particular data of interferograms collected at a different time instance. Within a 60 minute, we can see that the steady state has been achieved in this particular experiment, which is having a height of a cavity around 5 centimeter. Okay, and then likewise we have done experiment at a different temperature and different concentration. Okay, and we carry out we come up with such a data of a thermal diffusivity variation with as a function of concentration and temperature. Then again we have carried out the parameters measurements, that is zeta potential, pH measurement of that particular sample, and viscosity measurement, and we come up with the activation energy required for the movement of that particular molecule. And we have also done same micrograph of that particular molecule just to justify and verify that whatever we are going to propose is happening inside the system or not. So we can see that with increase in a concentration, the coagulation, that means factor, is increasing. Okay, so that's why we propose in this particular study the major mechanism behind enhancement in thermal diffusivity is agglomeration of Al2O3 particle in the suspension, which varies with concentration and temperature. We have also carried out the measurement with the help of the, that means for a Brownian diffusion as well as thermophoresis, and we have checked that, but we come to know that the governing mechanism for energy transfer is, in case of nanofluids, is mainly the thermal diffusivity, not Brownian motion or thermodiffusion. So in this way, you can also carry out the measurement of thermodiffusion phenomena. Over here, as I said, that you have to use two wavelength. Okay, so helium neon will give you red beam of light, 632 nanometer wavelength, and argon ion will give you the blue light. Okay, so you will combine both the lights over here, and then you will pass a combined beam through the test and reference cell, and you will note that in a development of interference pattern as a function of time. After that, you will separate these two colors interferograms from a single interferogram. You will take a two interferogram. You can observe that the density of a fringes in a blue is large as compared to the density of fringes in red. That's why when you measure, let's say you just fix this position 6 in a red, and if you go in the similarly in the blue, you will find that in a blue the density of fringe, that means number of fringes, is around more than 8, right? Over here it is 6, it is greater than 8 in case of a blue. So that N2 minus N1 factor you will measure as a delta N. Now, once you know the delta N, okay, so N1 and N2 is known to you in this particular, this is a red, let's say, and this is a blue data is required, and this is a dN by dt and dN by dC for red, that means helium neon laser, and this is 632.8 nanometer wavelength data, and this is refractive index data for a blue light, and then you can get all the things are there, so you can find out delta C epsilon and delta T epsilon, right? There are two equations, two unknown, you can solve them simultaneously. Once you know the concentration distribution data, temperature distribution data, then you can use the analytical solution, and also the sensitivity analysis, as I explained, that is the data that you have measured and the property to be measured. So here the property to be measured is Soret coefficient, right, and diffusivity. So you have to find out the sensitivity of these parameters with the experimental data that you have generated, and we find that it is the sensitivity. So we have carried out the calculations within this high sensitivity zone. Okay, so these are the data that we have received, and it's showing good match between the reference values. So with this benchmarking study, now we are trying to study thermodiffusion phenomena in complex fluids. Okay, so likewise you can also carry out use these optical techniques in case of a tomography. Okay, so tomography is a 3D technique. Okay, so with the help of computational dynamics and boundary condition, with the help of boundary condition and geometry of the cavity, you can develop a 3D plot for on a computational through computational CFD, and you can compare it with the experimental values. Over here, the cavity will have 8 optical windows, so that you can rotate the cavity from 0, 45, 90, 185, 135, and you can take the reading on from all the angles, and you can club that information, and you can have a 3D information of the cavity. So from that particular experiments in our lab at IIT Bombay, student that means this Dr. Srinivas Rao has carried out some experiments, and he come up with such type of a pattern, that is convection pattern, that is happening inside the cavity. So in this way you can carry out the studies. You can also carry out measurements in a macro channels, how the heat transfer is taking place when the flow is laminar over there. Or you can also carry out measurement in the case of a turbulent flow, and how the heat diffusion will take place in a case of a laminar flow in a macro channels. That also the study that is performed in our lab. And you can also use these particular optical techniques for carrying out the heat transfer, that means in case of this crystallization process. Okay, so potassium dihydrogen phosphate crystal formation. Okay, so the heat formation takes place during the crystallization process. So you can image the heat formation, and you can analyze the heat formation, how much amount of heat is generated and how it is getting transferred. All these phenomena, diffusional phenomena, you can study with the help of these optical techniques, and you can analyze this with the help of computational techniques. Okay, so here also interferometer, this is a shadowgraphy, Schlieren images are there. This is a interferometry that you can use over here also to gauge the concentration distribution around the crystals which are forming on a time basis. This is the convective heat transfer part. You can use a rainbow color Schlieren over there, and deflectometry, and you can carry out measurement of a hue angle as a function of temperature as a calibrated one. And once this calibration is done, you can carry out the experiment, and here you can visualize the phenomena, as well as you can get the information at each point about the temperature variation, right? How the concentration gradient is varying, temperature gradient is varying in this particular case. Okay, so this is the one. Then we have also used these particular techniques, optical techniques, to carry out the measurement of heat released during solidification of metals. Okay, so here particularly this is a laser CO2 laser which we are using over here, and it just melt down the silicate particles which are placed at the top of the nozzle over here, and that particular particle we are using a levitator over here, so that it just levitates the particle in the air, and so that there will be no contact with the any surface, and the solidification process will not get affected by any contact. And during solidification, when we switch off the laser, how the solidification takes place from melt condition to the solid condition, that we have, and how the temperature variation over there is happening, that we have measured. That means we are with the help of this interferometry. So all these things are you can carry out. You can also use this data of a temperature, pressure variation, and diffusivity, and then artificial neural network technique you can use for this particular thing. That Dr. S. Chanda actually he performed the artificial neural network calculations for this data that we have measured experimentally over here. So in conclusion, I just want to say that the appropriate improvement and validation of algorithm for using optical techniques can be developed new scope for investigation of heat transfer and thermodiffusion phenomena, particularly in polar suspensions. So you can develop the sensitivity approach further for your experiments, and it can reduce the time span that required for optimize the time span required for your measurements, and also it can be used universally for other optical and non-optical methods utilized for measurements of various that means thermodiffusion or thermophysical properties measurement or diffusional measurements in various fluids. Still more emphasis is to be required to implement these precise optical techniques in chemical engineering as well as biological field, and a computational work is also needed in this particular regard. So I just want to acknowledge IIT Kanpur, IIT Jammu specifically where I'm working right now, IIT Kanpur, IIT Bombay, and Department of Science and Technology for various project grants, and also my lab mates at IIT Jammu, IIT Kanpur, and IIT Bombay. So thank you everybody for listening the talk. So if there is any question, we can discuss that one. Hello.
So is this equipment commercialized?
Which one?
The equipment what you have generated.
Yes, that one. No. That equipment. Yes. That is shadowgraphy. That equipment is under process, and we are going to commercialize that one. So we have patented that technique already, and we are working on that particular thing. But yes, of course, it can give you the mass diffusivity very easily, as I explained.
Thank you, sir.
So anybody else?
There is one question in chat box. Shall I ask?
Just a minute. So can you ask that one?
Sir, I will ask.
Yes. Okay.
Madam is want to ask that if we can check optical coefficient of a tissue or plant cell having necrosis or edema through optical coherence tomography, or any other better method to check optical coefficient of these cells.
So yeah, I'm just reading that one. Yes, that is possible. What you are saying, say, the basic requirement of this optical technique is it should be the fluid that you are working on should be transparent. Okay, or if it is the case that the fluid is in such a way that there is a diffusional phenomena of light diffusion phenomena is happening in case of fluid which is having a higher density or which are blurred, there also we can use these optical techniques to carry out such type of measurements. And of course, the tomography will also give you more information about what is the dynamics of the fluid which is happening around this particular tissue.
So, sir, we can use it for brain imaging also?
Yes. If the light is passing through that particular suspension that you are using,
yes.
Okay, so then you can use this particular technique for that particular study, because the only thing is that if the concentration gradient is higher in that particular suspension, okay, in that case you have to go for Schlieren or shadowgraphy. Otherwise, if the concentration gradient is low, if we can keep that one at a lower space, then you can use interferometry as well.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. That was my query.
Any other question is having participants? If any other question is there, please ask.
Yeah, if you don't, that means in future also, if you find that you can work in this particular thing, or if you want some information in this particular topic, you can contact me anytime. I'm there, so we can have discussion and we can find solution for that. Okay.
Sir, definitely I will contact you for that, because I have some project related to this only. So
Okay.
I'll take your entire details with the sir.
Okay. Okay, fine. Definitely. I think you might get my contact number and all from my the site also, or you can ask the committee.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Professor A.D. Patil, sir, to deliver vote of thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Samram sir. Good afternoon to all. It's my honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks on behalf of Department of Chemical Engineering, PUPIIT Budgaon, and organizing committee for this FDP on this particular occasion. Today, we were honored to have Dr. Yogesh Nimdev, Assistant Professor, IIT Jammu, for a wonderful speech on diffusional studies. So during this 1.5 year sessions, Yogesh sir has given more focus and emphasis on diffusional phenomenon, diffusional studies in colloidal suspension using advanced optical computational tools. Again, lastly, he have given more focuses on the computational methods to determine the thermal diffusivity. Really, sir, the knowledge which you have shared with us and all the participants is really highly appreciable. It's valuable to all the participants in building their careers, in their progress in chemical engineering as well as biotechnology. And on behalf of all the participants, I assure that each participant is satisfied with your speech, and same they will try to implement the knowledge in terms of their research and development. So for this purpose, I want to give my sincere thanks to you for accepting our invitation and conducting a session in our FDP. Thank you again for sparing your valuable time with us, clearing the concepts of diffusion studies and its estimation of the diffusion thermal diffusivities using different computational techniques. And I really appreciate your each and every efforts to make this session successful. Thank you very much again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Abhijit sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Now here we'll conclude today's session 2 and we'll start session 3 at 3:15 p.m. Thank you.